4 ingredients all in a savory Mexican-style broth. I'm Tess, and today I will show you how I pressure can white chicken chili. Stay tuned. This is another convenient shelf-stable meal all in a jar. I am just loving these meal-in-a-jar recipes. They are so convenient, and the recipes are flexible that you can make them the way your family likes them. Here I have 2½ cups of dried northern beans that are rinsed and soaked in cold water overnight for 12 hours. I then put them on the stove, brought them up to a simmer, cooked for 30 minutes, and then removed from the heat to cool. The beans are still not fully cooked, but will finish and become tender during the pressure canning process. Another step we need to do before filling the jars is preparing the chicken. I have 6 cups of boneless chicken breasts that I cubed into 1-inch pieces. This is hot pack canning, so I'm browning off the chicken first. In a skillet on medium heat, I added some oil and then the chicken, seasoning with a little salt and black pepper. I want to sear at least 2 sides of the chicken pieces. This will add some flavor to our white chicken chili. Again, the chicken will not be cooked all the way, but will finish in the canner. Now for that savory Mexican flavor broth for our chili. In a stock pan on high heat, I have 10 cups of chicken broth and I'm using homemade. If using boxed or canned broth, just be careful of the salt content. I'm adding in 2 7-ounce cans of chopped green chilies and giving that a good stir. This is 1 teaspoon of better than bouillon roasted chicken for a little boost of flavor. About a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of oregano, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, and 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne powder for a little kick of heat, and this is optional. And finally, 1 teaspoon of coriander powder, giving that a good mix and bringing this up to a simmer and cooking for 10 minutes. Okay, I have everything prepped and ready. I cleaned and sanitized my jars, lids, and rings. I have my Pro canner out, and I'm adding in 2 inches of water and bringing up to heat. This is a hot pack canning, so my hot jars will be filled with hot contents and placed into a hot canner, but not boiling. You just don't want your jars to experience a temperature shock. I also added a splash of white vinegar to the water to help decrease milky mineral deposits on the jars. You could add all the ingredients in the soup pot and then fill each jar, but I like to add the items separately so I know my white chicken chili is consistent and even throughout each jar. Today I'm using quart jars. First, I'm adding in 1/2 cup of the white beans. Now I'm dividing up the chicken between the 7 quarts. I find that 8 to 10 pieces of meat per jar is plenty. And if there's a little bit more, then all the better. Giving the meat a little shuffle and rearranging with the chopstick. I want to be able to pack as much goodness as I can in this jar, but still be within the safe home pressure canning guidelines. Adding in 1/3 to a 1/2 cup of chopped onions. This always adds a nice background flavor to a soup. To keep with the Mexican theme, I'm adding in a 1/2 cup of corn. I prefer to use frozen, but I only had canned, so I'm making do with what I have and need to use. Now I'm pouring in the broth, and it smells so good. I'm leaving an inch of headspace. We are also following the guidelines by the 50-50 rule. That is, that you can fill the jar with 50% solids and the other 50% with liquid. The liquid or broth acts as a conductor of heat to get that internal temp of the jar to 240 degrees to kill any bacteria or botulism. Also remember, we have white beans in there that will slightly expand. After pouring in the broth, another important step in canning is debubbling. I take a plastic knife or chopstick and poke down along the inside of the jar to release any air bubbles that are on the bottom or between the food pieces. The whole idea in pressure canning and preserving is to remove all the air in the jar so the lid will seal and the food will preserve. If you forget to debubble, there's more chance of the lid not sealing. Now I'm cleaning each jar rim with a white vinegar towel, placing on my lids and rings finger tight. For hot packing chicken or chicken soup in quart jars, the processing time is 90 minutes. At my location and altitude, I use 10 pounds of pressure. For the amount of pressure that you use, you will need to check the USDA guidelines for where you are located, and I will leave a link in the description box below. Placing on my canner lid and locking in place. Turning my heat on high, venting for a full 10 minutes, placing on my 10-pound weight gauge, bringing up to 10 pounds of pressure, adjusting the heat to the lowest setting while maintaining 10 pounds of pressure, and then setting the timer and processing for 90 minutes. On my electric stove, that temperature is around a 4 to a 5, and the jiggler dances about 4 to 5 times per minute. Every stove and location is different, so you will need to observe and adjust accordingly. After 90 minutes, turn off the heat and let it rest until the pressure comes completely down to 0, and this is going to take about 45 minutes. And don't rush this process. After the gauge registers 0, remove the weighted gauge and let it set 10 more minutes before removing the lid. And this is the canned white chicken chili. It looks so good. Placing the jars on a towel in a draft-free area. These jars will rest for 12 to 24 hours. After 12 hours, I remove the rings and make sure everything is sealed. I let them rest for the full 24 hours, and then I give them a wash, label, and place on the shelf. I love the full chili flavor and all the textures. The chicken is fall-apart tender. You could serve this with some pasta, rice, or even some cornbread. I hope this canning video has inspired you to do your own home canning and preserving. It really is a great way to preserve your food and convenient for those busy days and nights. And until next time, enjoy! If you like this video recipe, please remember to hit the like and subscribe button to receive my future recipes. Please feel free to share my channel with your friends and family. It really helps my channel grow and it is greatly appreciated. And until next time, much love!